Someone else can see you and all they see is the worst of you. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter when you did wrong or what you did or whether you did it or not. They've decided to see you in a certain way and that will never change. They cannot see you any different. They've made up their mind. Your job is not to change their mind. You're not there to convince anyone you're a good person. Your job is to understand you cannot accept their definition for yourself. You can't accept their definition for yourself. You have to accept the definition of yourself that comes from Allah Himself. Muslim, ta'ib, imperfect. Someone who makes mistakes and then comes back to Allah and asks for forgiveness. Someone who's struggling. Someone who's trying to do better. Allah has not abandoned you. You don't get to abandon yourself. I don't get to abandon myself. I don't get to develop hatred for myself. I don't have that right because I don't own myself. Allah has ownership over me. And Allah has given me an honor that I can't take away. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We honored the children of Adam. So even in this most humiliating, intimidating conversation, Musa alayhi salam owns up to the mistake, but doesn't let the mistake define him. You see that? And then he shows how do I know the mistake doesn't define me? Because Allah Himself, after my mistake, chose me. Not before my mistake, after my mistake, Allah chose me. You know, nowadays it's hard to get a job if you have a criminal record. People look at your mistake and say, we'll get back to you, right? And here you have Allah choosing the highest possible job, a messenger, for someone who has a murder on their rap sheet and they're actually still wanted for murder in the greatest kingdom on earth at the time. And Allah has chosen him. Why? Because he owns up to his mistake. And when a person owns up to their mistake, with genuine guilt they feel towards the wrong they did to somebody else, and they turn to Allah in repentance, and they make amends, they make things right, to Allah that person is honored. They may be shamed by people, but they're honored by Allah. And that's something we have to internalize. It's very powerful. It's spiritually very empowering psychology that helps us combat against these waves of shame that may be rooted in some legitimate guilt, but guilt is not something you live with for your entire life. You made a mistake in your past, okay, but you don't get to review it every week, you know? Oh, I messed up, you don't know what I did. You're defining yourself, you're turning that into shame. Guilt is you did something bad, you turned to Allah, you cried your tears of remorse, you tried to make amends, move on with your life. Life goes on. If life can go on for someone who took a life and goes on to the best moments of his life, alayhi salam, then Allah has put that in the Quran for a reason. For us to be able to move on, to heal ourselves, to recognize it in ourselves, and may Allah Azza wa Jalla make us all better ourselves and not live with these negative emotions and shame and guilt, and also protect us from shaming others. It's not just that we don't want to experience shame, we don't want to be guilty of instilling constant guilt in someone else until it turns into shame. May Allah Azza wa Jalla protect us from being the victim or the perpetrator.